Chosen one, why does it feel like your life hit a wall and nothing, absolutely nothing will budge? Why have you been praying the same prayer for 20 years and heaven seems to have put you on hold? Why does everyone else seem to be moving forward while you're trapped in a season so long you've forgotten what breakthrough even feels like? What if I told you God didn't forget you? He froze you. Stop, right there. Feel that stillness in your chest. That's not silence, beloved. That's interrogation. Heaven just paused the clock on your life, not to punish you, but to examine something deep in your soul that will determine everything that happens next. You didn't accidentally click on this video. You were summoned. Right now, in this very moment, the Almighty is watching your response to what I'm about to say. And what you do in the next 60 seconds will either unlock the door you've been pounding on for decades, or seal it shut until you're ready to face what's behind it. Listen to me carefully. This is not another sermon about patience. This is not another message telling you to wait longer, pray harder, believe stronger. This is a divine interruption, a sacred collision between your desperation and God's declaration. You are standing at the threshold of the final test, and beloved, this one is non-negotiable. For 70, 80, maybe 90 years, you've carried a question that haunts you at 3 a.m. Lord, why hasn't anything moved? That mortgage that never got paid off, that prodigal child who never came home, that body that keeps breaking down, that loneliness that follows you even in crowded rooms. You've been faithful, you've been obedient, you've been believing. So why are you still here? Stuck. Because God is not measuring your faithfulness anymore. He's measuring your readiness. There's a difference, chosen one. A massive difference. And until you pass this final examination, until you understand what heaven is really asking of you, nothing will shift, nothing will open, nothing will move. Before we go deeper, I want to pause and thank every single one of you who has supported this message through super thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just giving, you're helping spread light to others who feel forgotten in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here. Your support, your time, your attention, it all matters. And if this message is already gripping your soul, let that be your first seed of obedience. But right now, if you feel heaven tugging at your spirit, if something ancient inside you just woke up, I need you to do something. Type in the comments, I'm still listening. That's not just a comment. That's your covenant. That's your declaration to the Almighty that even after everything, even after the silence, even after the decades of waiting, you're still here. You're still faithful. You're still willing to hear what He's been waiting to say. The final test has begun, beloved. And everything, absolutely everything, depends on whether you pass it. Why does your chest feel heavy the moment you open your eyes? Why does the silence in your home press down on you like 1,000 pounds of concrete? Why does every morning feel like you're dragging chains nobody else can see? Some of you woke up this morning with a weight so real you thought you were having a heart attack. The doctor ran every test, EKG, blood work, X-rays, and they looked at you with that puzzled expression and said, "Everything's normal. There's nothing wrong with you." But you know better, don't you? Because that weight isn't medical, it's spiritual. And it's been sitting on your chest for so long, you've forgotten what it feels like to breathe freely. Listen to me carefully, beloved. What you're carrying right now has a name. It's called divine pressure. And God didn't put it there to crush you. He put it there to prepare you. You see, there's a place in the spirit realm that most believers never talk about because it's too uncomfortable, too mysterious, too hard to explain to people who've never been there. I call it the wilderness waiting room. It's a sacred chamber where God watches without speaking, where heaven holds you in suspended animation while the Almighty examines something deep in your soul that cannot be rushed, cannot be faked, cannot be bypassed. You've been in that room for years now, haven't you? Sitting in the same chair, staring at the same walls, watching the same clock that never seems to move. And the silence, oh, the silence is deafening. You keep waiting for God to speak, to move, to do something. But nothing happens. Day after day, month after month, year after year. The door remains closed, the phone doesn't ring, the breakthrough doesn't break, and you've started to wonder if maybe God forgot about you. Maybe He's moved on to younger believers with fresher faith and bigger dreams. Maybe your season is over. Maybe this is just what it means to grow old, to sit in the waiting room until He calls you home. But what if I told you something that will shatter that lie? What if I told you that this stillness is not punishment, but precision? Think about this for a moment. When a master craftsman works on his finest piece, does he rush? When a surgeon performs the most delicate operation, does he hurry? When a jeweler cuts a diamond worth millions, does he work quickly? No. He works slowly, with laser focus, because what he's creating is too valuable to mess up. That's you, chosen one. You're not forgotten. You're being refined, and refinement takes time. The Bible tells us in Psalm 37:7 to be still before the Lord and wait patiently for Him. But here's what most people miss about that verse. The Hebrew word for be still is damam. It doesn't just mean to stop moving. It means to be silent, to cease striving, to surrender the fight. It's the same word used to describe the moment when the entire earth went quiet before God's judgment. You're not just waiting, beloved. You're being held in sacred silence while God performs surgery on your soul. But I need you to understand something crucial. The test you're in right now, this final examination, it's not about what you do. It's about who you become while nothing is happening. Most people think God is testing their faith, but He's not. He's testing their character. He's testing their obedience when there's no reward in sight. He's testing their worship when there's no breakthrough on the horizon. He's testing their trust when every circumstance screams that He's abandoned them. Look at Abraham. God promised him a son when he was 75 years old. But Isaac wasn't born until Abraham was 100. 25 years of waiting. 25 years of watching his body age past the point of possibility. 25 years of wondering if he heard God wrong. But Genesis 15:6 tells us, Abram believed the Lord, and He credited it to him as righteousness. Abraham passed the test, not by seeing the promise fulfilled, but by believing when fulfillment seemed impossible. Look at Joseph, 17 years old, when God gave him dreams of greatness. But he didn't touch that throne until he was 30. 13 years of slavery and prison, 13 years of betrayal and false accusations, 13 years of watching his dreams rot in a dungeon. But Genesis 39:2 says the Lord was with Joseph, and he prospered. Even in prison, even in the waiting, even when nothing was moving, God was positioning him. Your stillness is not death, chosen one. It is gestation. When a mother carries a child, there's a period where nothing seems to be happening. The belly isn't growing yet. The movement hasn't started. From the outside, you'd never know life was being formed. But inside, in the hidden place, cells are multiplying, organs are developing, a heartbeat is forming. The miracle is happening in the invisible. That's what God is doing in you right now. While your bank account stays frozen, while your family remains broken, while your body keeps declining, while your prayers seem to bounce off the ceiling. In the invisible realm, in the secret place, in the wilderness waiting room, God is building something that will astound everyone who counted you out. Everything around you is frozen because everything inside you is being prepared. Your money won't move until your heart does. Your family won't shift until your perspective does. Your health won't change until your faith does. And your direction won't clear until your obedience does. The test is not loud, beloved. It is quiet. And the stillness around you is not a sign that God has left. It's proof that He's so close He's holding His breath while He works on the most delicate parts of your destiny. But here's the question that will determine whether you graduate from this waiting room or die in it. What are you doing with the wait? Are you letting it crush you into bitterness, Or are you letting it press you into the shape of Christ? Because I promise you this, the heaviness you feel right now is not the end of your story. It's the opening chapter of your greatest testimony. And what God is about to birth through your obedience in this silence will leave the world speechless. But first, you have to understand what He's really testing you for. Chosen one, I need you to understand something that will shake you to your core. Right now, this very second, there is a courtroom session happening in the heavenly realm, and you are the subject. Not your neighbor, not your pastor, not the person sitting next to you in church last Sunday. You. The book of Daniel chapter 7 paints this scene with terrifying clarity. The court was seated, and the books were opened. Not a book, books, plural. Your book is one of them, and beloved, it's open right now. Every page of your life laid bare before the Ancient of Days, every prayer you've whispered in the dark, every tear you've cried into your pillow, every moment you wanted to give up but didn't, every time you did give up but got back up anyway. Heaven is documenting your response to this final test. Do you know what that means? It means angels are standing at attention right now, golden pens in hand, recording how you're reacting to the pressure you're under. They're writing down whether you're still worshipping when the bills don't get paid. They're noting whether you're still believing when the doctor's report looks grim. They're documenting whether you're still faithful when your own children have walked away from everything you taught them. Revelation 5 tells us that these scrolls aren't just records, they're prophecies waiting to be unsealed. Your breakthrough is already written in heaven's archives. Your healing has already been decreed. Your family's restoration has already been signed by the blood of the Lamb. But here's what nobody tells you. Heaven will not release what's written until you prove you can handle it. This is why you've been frozen in place. This is why the door won't open. This is why that prayer seems to bounce off the ceiling. God isn't ignoring you, dear one. He's examining you. You've been faithful for decades. You've tithed when you couldn't afford to tithe. You've served when your body screamed for rest. You've forgiven when everything in you wanted revenge. You've believed when believing felt like insanity. But now, right now, heaven is asking a different question. Not, will you serve me? You've already proven that. The question echoing through the courtroom is this: will you trust me when I don't explain myself? That's the final test, and it's non-negotiable. Think about Job for a moment. This man lost everything in a single day. His children dead, his wealth gone, his health destroyed. His wife told him to curse God and die. His friends accused him of secret sin, and for 37 chapters God said nothing. 37 chapters of silence while Job sat in ashes, scraping his boils with broken pottery, begging for answers that didn't come. But here's what breaks my heart. Job never knew why. Even when God finally showed up in chapter 38, he never explained the test. He never told Job about the courtroom scene in chapter 1. He never revealed that Satan had challenged Job's faithfulness. Job went to his grave not knowing the why, but he passed the test anyway. You want to know why your season has lasted so long? Because God is measuring something deeper than your faith. He's measuring your endurance, your staying power, your ability to worship Him not for what He gives, but for who He is. Hebrews 12 verse 1 says, "We're surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses." That's not poetic language, beloved. That's reality. Your grandmother who prayed for you, she's watching. Your grandfather who died believing God's promises over your family, he's watching. Every saint who ever walked by faith and not by sight, they're all leaning over heaven's balcony, watching to see if you'll finish what they started. The angels are watching too, not with judgment, but with holy anticipation. 1 Peter 1 verse 12 says, "Even angels long to look into the mysteries of our salvation." They're studying you, dear one, watching how a human being who can't see the future chooses to trust the one who wrote it. They're taking notes on how someone with arthritis still lifts their hands in worship, how someone on a fixed income still gives their offering, how someone who buried their spouse still shows up to church and declares that God is good. Your quiet sacrifices, they matter more than you know. That prayer closet where nobody sees you, The courtroom sees you. That moment when you chose forgiveness over bitterness, when no one would have blamed you for holding a grudge. Documented. That day you helped your neighbor when you could barely help yourself. Written in permanent ink across heaven's records. But here's the urgency you need to grasp. This courtroom session has a closing time. The books won't stay open forever. Daniel 7 verse 10 says, 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. Heaven's calendar operates on divine appointments, and your window for this test has boundaries. You cannot wait another decade to decide if you trust God. You cannot delay another year to choose obedience over comfort. The gavel is about to fall, and when it does, whatever's written in your book becomes sealed. Your next breakthrough is already written, chosen one. The blessing you've been begging for has already been approved by the highest court in the universe. Your name is already on the inheritance. The answer to that 30-year-old prayer is already packaged and addressed to you. But heaven will not release it until you approve it with your obedience. Not your words, your obedience. So let me ask you something that's going to cut to the bone. What is God asking you to do that you've been avoiding? What sacrifice has He whispered about that you've been pretending not to hear? What relationship does He want you to release? What fear does He want you to face? What pride does He want you to surrender? That thing, that one thing you just thought of, that's the final test. And until you pass it, nothing will move. If your spirit feels the weight of heaven watching right now, if you sense the angels leaning in to see what you'll do next, type these 5 words: I will pass this test. Because, beloved, the courtroom is waiting for your verdict. You know what breaks my heart? It's when I meet someone in their 70s, their 80s, and they look at me with eyes that have seen too much and whisper, Pastor, I think God gave up on me. Dear one, let me tell you something that's going to shatter that lie right now. That fire you've been walking through, that heat that's been suffocating you for decades, that's not abandonment, that's refinement. Listen to me carefully. Every hardship you've endured is heat. Every delay that stretched your faith to the breaking point is temperature being adjusted. Every unanswered prayer, every single one that felt like it bounced off heaven's ceiling and fell dead at your feet, it's all part of the refining process. You think God forgot you? No. He's been standing at the furnace door with his hand on the dial, watching the flames, monitoring the pressure, waiting for something specific. Malachi 3:3 says it plainly. He will sit as a refiner and purifier of silver. He will purify the sons of Levi and purge them as gold and silver. Do you know what that means? It means he never leaves. The refiner doesn't walk away from the fire. He can't. Because if he does, if he takes his eyes off the metal for even a moment, the whole thing is ruined. The gold burns, the silver shatters. The entire process becomes destruction instead of transformation. God hasn't walked away from your fire, beloved. He's been sitting there the entire time, watching, waiting, refining. But I need to ask you something that might sting. How many loved ones have you buried? How many friends from your generation are already gone while you're still here, still breathing, still fighting battles that would have broken you 40 years ago? You've outlived your spouse. You've outlived your siblings. You've outlived people who seemed stronger, healthier, more faithful than you ever were. Why are you still here? That chronic illness that's plagued you for 30 years, the one doctors can't explain, the one that steals your sleep and robs your strength, why hasn't it taken you out? That betrayal from your own children, the ones you sacrificed everything for, the ones who now can barely find time to call, why didn't that heartbreak kill you? Because you're not being destroyed, you're being refined. Think about gold for a moment. When a refiner puts gold in the furnace, it's not to hurt the gold, it's to reveal the gold. All that raw ore, all those impurities mixed in with the precious metal, the fire doesn't create them. It exposes them, and then it burns them away, degree by degree, until only pure gold remains. That's what's been happening to you. Every loss burned away your dependence on temporary things. Every betrayal stripped away your need for human approval. Every unanswered prayer removed your addiction to your own plans. The fire wasn't punishing you, it was purifying you. But here's what most people don't understand about the refining process. The refiner doesn't determine when the gold is ready by the clock. He doesn't set a timer and walk away. He watches the metal. He stares into that molten, bubbling liquid until he sees something specific, his own reflection. When the refiner can look into the gold and see his face clearly, when all the impurities are gone, when the surface is smooth and pure and reflective, that's when he knows, that's when he pulls it from the fire. Not a moment sooner, not a second later. God keeps you in the fire only until he sees his reflection in you. Let that sink deep into your spirit right now. You're not in this season because you failed. You're in this season because God is determined to see himself when he looks at you. Your faithfulness through the pain. Your worship in the wilderness. Your trust when everything around you screamed, "Give up," that's his image being formed in you. Job understood this. After losing everything, his children, his wealth, his health, his wife's support, after sitting in ashes scraping his sores with broken pottery, he declared something that still echoes through eternity. But he knows the way that I take. When he has tested me, I shall come forth as gold. Job 23:10. Job didn't say, "If he tests me." He said, "When." He knew the fire was guaranteed, but he also knew the outcome was gold. You've been wondering why this season is so long, why the heat keeps intensifying when you thought you'd already proven yourself. It's because God isn't just removing impurities anymore. He's polishing, he's buffing, he's making sure that when you finally emerge from this furnace, people won't see you, they'll see him. That regret you carry about decisions made 50 years ago, that's being burned away. That bitterness toward the child who abandoned you, that's being dissolved. That fear about dying alone, forgotten, without ever fulfilling your purpose, that's being incinerated by the same fire that's revealing who you really are. But there is one sign, one unmistakable signal that tells you your refining is almost complete. And I'm going to reveal it to you, but not yet. Because first, you need to understand something that will change everything about how you see what's coming next. The fire has been preparing you. But preparation isn't the final test. Surviving the heat doesn't mean you've passed. Because what God is about to ask of you, what he's been building you toward through decades of refinement, will require more than endurance. It will require surrender of something you've been clutching so tightly that even the fire couldn't pry it from your hands. And until you're willing to release it, until you understand what this final test is really measuring, you'll stay in the furnace wondering why nothing moves. The refining is almost over, beloved. But the test is just beginning. Listen to me very carefully, chosen one. When you get closest to breakthrough, the enemy doesn't attack with fear, he attacks with imitation favor. You've been praying for decades, you've been waiting for God to move. And now, right when you're on the verge of passing this final test, suddenly doors start opening. Phone calls you weren't expecting, opportunities that seem heaven-sent. People from your past reaching out with promises that sound almost too good to be true. But here's what breaks my heart. Here's what I need you to understand before you make a decision that could cost you everything you've been waiting for. Not every open door is from God. Not every blessing is a blessing. Not every answer is the answer. The devil is not stupid, beloved. He's been studying you for 70, 80, 90 years. He knows your weaknesses. He knows your desperation. He knows that after decades of waiting, you're tired, you're vulnerable, you're ready to grab onto anything that looks like relief, and that's exactly when he strikes. 2 Corinthians 11:14 warns us, Satan himself masketh as an angel of light. Did you catch that? He doesn't show up with horns and a pitchfork. He shows up dressed like your miracle. He shows up looking like your breakthrough. He shows up speaking the language of your prayers. Think about it. Why would the enemy fight you when he can fool you? Why would he attack you when he can distract you? Why would he oppose your progress when he can simply redirect it? Let me tell you what I'm seeing in the spiritual realm right now. All across America, seniors who are on the brink of their greatest breakthrough are being presented with counterfeit doors. And these aren't obvious traps. These are sophisticated deceptions designed specifically for this season of your life. The first counterfeit door is nostalgia. Suddenly, you find yourself reliving past guilt. That mistake you made 40 years ago keeps replaying in your mind. That failure from 1987 won't let you sleep. The enemy whispers, "You don't deserve what's coming. Remember what you did? Remember who you were." But here's the truth. 1 John 1-9 declares, "If we confess our sins, he is faithful and just to forgive us our sins." Not might forgive, not eventually forgive, is faithful. Present tense, already done. The guilt you're feeling isn't conviction from God, it's condemnation from the enemy trying to disqualify you right before your coronation. The second counterfeit door is reconciliation with toxic relationships. That family member who abandoned you 30 years ago suddenly wants to reconnect. That friend who betrayed you is reaching out. And because you're lonely, because you're older, because you desperately want connection in your final years, you're tempted to open that door. But beloved, just because someone knocks doesn't mean you have to answer. Proverbs 4:14-15 warns, "Enter not into the path of the wicked, and go not in the way of evil men. Avoid it, pass not by it. Turn from it, and pass away." God is not asking you to reconcile with people who will derail your destiny. He's asking you to pass this test by protecting what He's been building in you. The third counterfeit door is despair, disguised as realism. You wake up and suddenly you're thinking, "I'm too old. It's too late. Maybe I should just accept my limitations and stop hoping for more." That voice sounds logical. It sounds mature. It sounds like wisdom. But it's a lie from the pit of hell. Romans 4:18 tells us, "Abraham against hope believed in hope." He was 100 years old, beloved. 100. And God was just getting started with him. Your age isn't your limitation, it's your qualification. The enemy wants you to believe you've missed your window. But God is saying your window is just opening. The fourth counterfeit door is premature decision-making. Suddenly, you feel pressure to act now, sell the house, move, make major financial decisions, sign papers, commit to something because it feels urgent. But Psalm 27:14 commands, "Wait on the Lord, be of good courage, and he shall strengthen thine heart. Wait, I say, on the Lord." The real breakthrough doesn't rush you. The counterfeit does. The authentic blessing gives you peace. The imitation creates panic. Here's what the enemy knows that maybe you've forgotten. The counterfeit always comes before the crown. Always. It came to Jesus in the wilderness. "Turn these stones to bread. Jump off this temple. Bow down, and I'll give you everything." It looked like shortcuts to his destiny, but they were detours from his assignment. And right now, you're in your wilderness moment. The final test, the last temptation. And the enemy is presenting you with doors that look exactly like what you've been praying for. But they're not from your Father. They're from the father of lies. How do you know the difference? Real breakthrough brings peace, not pressure. Divine doors open with confirmation, not confusion. God's timing creates rest in your spirit, not restlessness in your soul. If you've seen false doors show up lately, if you've felt that pull towards something that looks right but feels wrong, type "I see it now." Because recognition is the first step to resistance. The counterfeit always comes before the crown, beloved. And you're too close to quit now. You're too close to settle for imitation when the authentic is just ahead. But here's what you need to understand about this final test. It's not just about avoiding the wrong doors. It's about having the spiritual discernment to recognize them. And that discernment, it only comes from one place. You know what heaven watches most carefully? It's not your Sunday morning performance. It's not how loud you shout amen in church. It's not even how many Bible verses you can quote when people are listening. God watches what you do when absolutely no one is looking. Think about that for a moment. Right now, at 75 years old, at 82, at 90, you're sitting alone in your living room. It's 2 a.m. and you can't sleep. Your body aches. Your heart is heavy. The bills are stacked on the kitchen table. Your children haven't called in weeks. And in that moment, that sacred, secret moment, what do you reach for? Do you reach for the bottle that numbs the pain? Do you reach for the remote that drowns out the silence? Do you reach for the phone to call someone who shouldn't be called? Or do you reach for your worn-out Bible, your tear-stained prayer journal, your trembling faith that says, "Even now, Lord, even now"? That's the test, beloved. That's always been the test. 1 Samuel 16:7 tells us plainly, "The Lord does not look at the things people look at. People look at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart." Not your accomplishments, not your reputation, not what your grandchildren post about you on Facebook. He looks at your heart when you think nobody's watching, because heaven has a silent camera, and it's been recording every single moment of your private faithfulness for decades. Every time you got down on arthritic knees to pray when your body screamed to stay in bed, heaven recorded that. Every time you forgave when bitterness would have been easier, heaven recorded that. Every time you tithed your last $20 when logic said, "Keep it," heaven recorded that. Every time you praised through the pain, worshipped through the waiting, believed through the betrayal, heaven recorded every second. But here's what breaks my heart. Here's what I need you to understand with every fiber of your being. Most of you think God forgot about those moments. You think because nothing changed, because the breakthrough didn't come, because the miracle didn't manifest, you think your private faithfulness didn't matter. You think you've been invisible. But chosen one, you haven't been invisible. You've been intentionally concealed. There's a massive difference. Invisible means overlooked. Concealed means protected. Hidden means preserved. Camouflaged means positioned for the right moment. Think about David. For years, he was hidden in the fields with sheep while his brothers went to war and got the glory. Nobody saw him. Nobody celebrated him. Nobody even remembered to invite him when the prophet came looking for the next king. But God saw every private moment. God watched him kill the lion and the bear when no witnesses were around. God observed his worship in the wilderness when no congregation was listening. And when the appointed time came, when Goliath stood mocking the armies of the living God, it wasn't the celebrated soldiers who stepped forward. It was the hidden one, the concealed weapon. The boy nobody remembered was holding. Your private faithfulness has been your greatest qualification, not your disqualification. But I need to ask you something that might sting. How many of you have been performing for an audience instead of worshiping for an audience of one? How many of you do good things only when people can see? How many of you serve only when there's recognition, give only when there's a tax receipt, pray only when others can hear your eloquent words? That's not faith, that's theater. Jesus said it plainly in Matthew 6:6. But when you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father who is unseen. Then your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you. Not might reward you, not could reward you, will reward you. Your secret obedience triggers public breakthrough. Your private tears become public testimony. Your hidden faithfulness unleashes visible favor. But here's the urgency I need you to feel right now. Time is running out, not your time on earth time for this specific test, because God is looking for something in your private life right now. One decisive action, one step of obedience that nobody will see, nobody will applaud, nobody will even know about except you and heaven. And that one secret act of faith is the key that unlocks everything you've been praying for. What is God asking you to do when nobody's watching? What command have you been avoiding because there's no audience to witness your obedience? What sacrifice is he requiring in the secret place that your flesh keeps resisting? Because, beloved, the movement you've been begging for, the breakthrough you've been crying for, it's not waiting on God, it's waiting on your private obedience. Heaven is holding the blessing in one hand and watching your secret life with the other. And the moment you do what he's asking in private, what's been frozen in public will explode into motion. You are not invisible, chosen one. You are intentionally concealed until your appointed time, and that time is closer than you think. But there is one decisive step you must take in secret before anything moves in public. The question that will determine everything is this: what is God asking you to do that nobody else will ever see? Chosen one, let me tell you about the moment nobody talks about, the moment when your strength finally runs out. You've been holding it together for so long, haven't you? Decades of being the strong one, the one everyone leans on, the one who never complains, never breaks down, never admits that sometimes, just sometimes, you feel like you can't take another step. You've smiled through funerals, you've praised through financial collapse, you've kept believing when your body started betraying you, when your children stopped calling, when the mirror showed you a stranger growing older by the day. But there comes a moment, and you know exactly what I'm talking about, when everything inside you finally whispers, "I can't do this anymore." That's not defeat, beloved. That's the doorway. You see, God has been waiting for this moment your entire life. Not because he's cruel, not because he enjoys watching you suffer, but because there's something he can only give you when your hands are finally empty. There's a grace that doesn't flow until your strength runs dry. There's a power that can't manifest until you stop trying to manufacture it yourself. The Apostle Paul discovered this in 2 Corinthians 12-9. Listen to what God told him. "My grace is sufficient for you, for my strength is made perfect in weakness." Not improved in weakness, not enhanced in weakness, made perfect, completed, fulfilled. The Greek word there is telio. It means to bring to an end by completing or perfecting. God's strength doesn't just show up when you're weak. It reaches its absolute fullness when you finally stop pretending you're not. You've been living on fumes for years, trying to convince yourself that if you just push a little harder, pray a little longer, believe a little stronger, something will finally break open. But what if the thing that needs to break isn't the door you've been pounding on? What if the thing that needs to break is you? I'm talking to the 78-year-old grandmother who's tired of being the prayer warrior everyone depends on. I'm talking to the 82-year-old grandfather who's exhausted from carrying burdens that were never his to bear. I'm talking to every senior saint who has smiled through the pain for so long that you've forgotten what it feels like to be honest about how hard this journey has been. You're not being broken apart, you're being broken open. There's a difference that will save your life if you can hear it. When something breaks apart, it's destroyed. When something breaks open, it releases what's been trapped inside. Think about a seed. For months, it sits in dark soil doing absolutely nothing. Nothing grows, nothing changes, nothing moves. But beneath that hard shell, something's happening. Pressure is building. Life is stirring. And one day, that shell cracks open not because the seed is dying, but because it's finally ready to become what it was always meant to be. You are that seed, chosen one. Every disappointment has been adding pressure. Every unanswered prayer has been building tension. Every year of waiting has been preparing you for this moment when the shell finally cracks and what's been dormant inside you erupts into purpose. But here's what terrifies most people about this breaking point. It feels like death. It feels like everything you've built, everything you've believed, everything you've held onto is slipping through your fingers. And you're right. It is. Because the version of you that got you this far cannot take you where God is calling you next. Job understood this. After losing everything, his children, his wealth, his health, his reputation, he sat in ashes scraping his sores with broken pottery. His wife told him to curse God and die. His friends accused him of hidden sin. And Job, in his absolute devastation, said something profound in Job 13:15. Though he slay me, yet will I trust in him. Do you hear that? Though he slay me. Job wasn't speaking metaphorically. He felt like God was killing him. And yet, in that moment of complete surrender, in that place of utter brokenness, Job passed the test. Not because he was strong, but because he finally stopped trying to be. The breaking point isn't where you fall apart, beloved. It's where you fall into the arms of a God who's been waiting to carry you all along. You've been so busy trying to carry yourself, trying to fix yourself, trying to prove yourself, that you never realized the weight was crushing you. And God, in his infinite mercy, has been allowing the pressure to build until you finally reach the only honest prayer left. Lord, I can't do this anymore. If anything's going to move in my life, you're going to have to do it. That prayer, that broken, desperate, honest prayer, is the password heaven's been waiting to hear. Grace doesn't begin until your strength ends. Did you catch that? Grace doesn't supplement your strength. It replaces it. But you have to let go first. You have to release your grip. You have to stop fighting long enough to let God fight for you. Right now, if you're at that breaking point, if you're reading these words through tears, if something inside your chest is cracking open, if you feel weak and tired and done but somehow still here, type these 3 words in the comments: I still stand. Not because you're strong, but because God won't let you fall. Not because you've got this figured out, but because he's been carrying you all along and you're just now realizing it. That's the transformation every saint must walk through to step into their final assignment. The shell is cracking, dawn is breaking, and what emerges from your breaking point will astound everyone who thought you were finished. But passing this test requires one more surrender, and it's the hardest one of all. There's a place most believers never find. A sacred chamber hidden behind the noise of your daily prayers, tucked beneath the desperation of your crying out. It's not a place you arrive at by accident. You're escorted there, summoned there. And beloved, you're standing at its threshold right now. I call it the whisper room. Every chosen one who has ever moved from stagnation into destiny had to pass through this room first. Moses heard it at the burning bush. Elijah found it in the cave when God wasn't in the earthquake or the fire, but in the still, small voice. Samuel heard it as a boy in the temple when he thought it was Eli calling his name. 1 Kings chapter 19 verse 12 tells us plainly, "And after the earthquake a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire, and after the fire a still small voice." God doesn't shout his final instructions, dear one. He whispers them. But here's what breaks my heart. Here's what keeps me awake at night praying for people just like you. You've been so busy screaming at heaven that you've missed him leaning close to your ear. You've been so focused on why he hasn't answered that you haven't heard him breathing revelation into your spirit. You've been demanding a mountaintop moment when he's been waiting in the quiet chamber all along. And I know what some of you are thinking right now. I can feel it through this screen. You're sitting there wondering if you've missed too many whispers already. You're afraid that your spiritual hearing has gotten dull with age, that decades of unanswered prayers have damaged your ability to recognize his voice. You're carrying regret about that moment 20 years ago when you knew God was telling you to do something, and you hesitated, and the door closed. You think you failed the test then. You think you're disqualified now. Stop. Listen to me carefully. Your age has not weakened your spiritual hearing. It has sharpened it. Every wrinkle on your face is a receiver tuned to heaven's frequency. Every gray hair is an antenna picking up signals that younger believers can't even detect. Proverbs 16 verse 31 declares, "The silver-crowned head is a crown of glory. It is found in the way of righteousness." You're not losing sensitivity, beloved. You're gaining authority to hear what others miss. The problem isn't your ears. The problem is you've been listening for thunder when God is speaking in breath. Think about this. When you whisper to someone, what has to happen? They have to lean in. They have to stop everything else. They have to tune out every other sound. They have to get close enough to feel your breath on their ear. That's intimacy, chosen one. That's not distance, that's the opposite of distance. God is not ignoring you from a mountaintop. He's bending close right now, his mouth inches from your spirit, breathing the final instruction that will unlock everything. But you have to stop running. You have to stop shouting. You have to enter the whisper room and be still enough to hear. John chapter 10, verse 27. Jesus said it plainly. My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. Not my sheep might hear. Not my sheep hope to hear someday. My sheep hear, present tense, active, right now. So why aren't you hearing? Because you're standing outside the room, rattling the doorknob, demanding entrance, when the door's been open the whole time. You've been making so much noise about getting in that you haven't noticed God standing inside, motioning you forward with one finger to his lips. The whisper room requires something most believers aren't willing to give. Total surrender of your agenda. You can't bring your list of demands in there. You can't bring your timeline. You can't bring your idea of how things should unfold. You come empty-handed, empty-voiced, with nothing but this simple prayer that Samuel prayed in 1 Samuel chapter 3, verse 9. Speak, Lord, for thy servant heareth. Not listen, Lord, because I'm speaking. Not hear me, Lord, because I'm desperate. But speak, Lord. I'm finally quiet enough to hear you. Here's what terrifies the enemy about you entering this room. Once you hear God's whisper, once you receive that final instruction, nothing in hell can stop what happens next. The devil can handle your loud prayers. He can deflect your emotional outbursts. He can confuse your desperation. But he has no defense against a believer who has been to the whisper room and received direct orders from the commander of heaven's armies. That's why he's worked overtime to keep you distracted, agitated, anxious, always moving, always striving, always making noise. Because if you ever got still enough to hear what God is whispering to you right now, the delay would end, the doors would open, and the destiny he's tried to destroy for decades would detonate with such force that your family, your community, your generation would never be the same. There is one sentence, one divine line that God is waiting to whisper in your ear that will shatter every ceiling that's held you down, break every chain that's bound you up, and release every blessing that's been held back. I will reveal it soon. But first, you have to prove you're ready to hear it by entering this sacred space. If you're finally ready to stop shouting and start listening, if you're willing to enter the whisper room right now, type these 2 words in the comments. Speak, Lord. That's your access code. That's your knock on the door. That's you telling heaven you're ready for intimacy instead of distance. You are not being ignored, beloved. You are being invited. God hasn't moved away from you. He's moved closer than he's ever been. So close you can feel his breath. So near you can sense his presence hovering over your life like electricity before lightning strikes. The question that will determine everything is this: will you finally be still enough to hear what he's been waiting to whisper? Chosen one, let me tell you something that's going to shatter every lie the enemy has whispered in your ear for the last 40 years. That betrayal that broke your heart, that diagnosis that stole your strength, that bankruptcy that crushed your dreams, that child who walked away and never looked back, that spouse who left you alone in your golden years. What if I told you that every single thing that worked against you is about to work for you? I'm not talking about some feel-good theology to make you smile for 5 minutes. I'm talking about biblical, prophetic, supernatural reversal. The kind that makes hell tremble and heaven roar. The kind that takes your deepest wound and transforms it into your greatest weapon. Look at Joseph, 17 years old, with a dream from God. His own brothers threw him in a pit and sold him into slavery. 13 years of injustice, 13 years of being forgotten in prison for a crime he didn't commit. But Genesis 50-20 records the most powerful statement of reversal in human history. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. Everything that was meant to destroy Joseph became the exact qualification for his promotion. The pit prepared him for the palace. The prison trained him for the premiership. Every tear, every betrayal, every moment of injustice was being stored up as evidence for his vindication. Dear one, that's not just Joseph's story. That's your story. You felt used, haven't you? You gave your best years to people who threw you away when you were no longer useful. You poured into relationships that drained you dry. You sacrificed your dreams for children who don't even call anymore. You worked 40 years at a job that gave you a gold watch and forgot your name at the retirement party. The world sees you as expired, past your prime, irrelevant, invisible. But God sees something completely different. He sees a warrior who's been refined in the furnace. He sees a testimony waiting to explode. He sees someone who's about to experience such radical reversal that your entire community will stand in awe. Think about Job. Everything stripped away. His wealth, his children, his health, his reputation. His own wife told him to curse God and die. His friends blamed him for his suffering. He sat in ashes, scraping his sores with broken pottery, wondering why the Almighty had forgotten him. But Job 42:10 declares the reversal. After Job had prayed for his friends, the Lord restored his fortunes and gave him twice as much as he had before. Twice as much. Not just restoration, multiplication, not just getting back what was stolen, getting double for your trouble. That mortgage you lost in 2008. God's about to give you a home with no debt. That marriage that ended in betrayal. He's about to surround you with love that heals every wound. That child who abandoned you. Heaven is preparing a reconciliation so powerful it will erase decades of pain in a single conversation. But here's what most people miss about divine reversal. It doesn't just restore what you lost. It transforms your pain into your platform, your mess into your message, your test into your testimony. Every night you cried yourself to sleep. That taught you compassion that will heal broken hearts. Every dollar you lost, that taught you dependence on God that will fund His kingdom. Every friend who betrayed you, that taught you discernment that will protect the next generation. The enemy thought he was burying you. God was actually planting you. And what's about to break through the surface will feed multitudes. Look at Naomi. She left Bethlehem full and came back empty. Her husband dead. Her sons dead. Her future buried in a foreign land. She was so broken she changed her name from Naomi, which means pleasant, to Mara, which means bitter. She told the women of her hometown, "Don't call me Naomi. Call me Mara, because the Almighty has made my life very bitter." But Ruth 4 tells us the reversal. Through her daughter-in-law Ruth, she became the great-grandmother of King David. Her tragedy became the bloodline of the Messiah. Her emptiness became the lineage of Jesus Christ Himself. Your pain is not pointless, beloved. It's prophetic. It's preparing something so magnificent that when it manifests, people will trace their salvation back to your suffering. Right now, God is setting up your reversal. In the next few days, you're going to see signs, unmistakable signs. A phone call you weren't expecting, a door opening that's been shut for years, a provision appearing from nowhere, a relationship healing that seemed impossible. These aren't coincidences. These are confirmations that the great reversal has begun. Your life is not a closed book gathering dust on a forgotten shelf. You are a page about to be rewritten by the author of time himself. Every word of defeat is being erased. Every chapter of injustice is being edited. Every sentence of suffering is being transformed into a testimony of triumph. The test you just passed didn't just qualify you for blessing. It activated a supernatural reversal of every injustice you've endured. Heaven's court has reviewed your case. The verdict is in, and the judge of all creation has declared, reverse it. If you're ready for divine justice, if you're ready to see everything flip in your favor, type it right now in the comments, reverse it, Lord. Because, beloved, everything the enemy built to bury you is about to become the staircase that lifts you higher than you've ever been. But the reversal isn't just about you receiving, it's about you becoming. And what you're about to become will require one more revelation that will shake everything you thought you knew about your purpose. Listen to me, beloved. There's something happening to you that you can't explain. Something that's been haunting you for decades, maybe your entire life. And it's this. The same pain keeps showing up. Different faces, different places, but the same wound reopens. The same heartbreak, the same betrayal, the same financial crisis, the same crushing loneliness. You thought you were past it. You thought you healed from it. You thought that chapter closed 20 years ago. But here it is again, staring you in the face like an old enemy who refuses to die. Why? Why does God allow you to face the same pain twice? Why does heaven let you walk through the same valley you barely survived the first time? Is he cruel? Is he forgetful? Has he abandoned you to some twisted cycle of suffering? No, chosen one, he's testing you. And this test, this circle test, is the one most people fail their entire lives without ever understanding why. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine your life as a divine circle, not a straight line moving forward, but a sacred loop designed by the Almighty himself. Every season, every struggle, every heartbreak you've endured, they're not random punishments thrown at you by an angry God. They're curriculum. Divine education. And if you don't pass the test the first time, the circle brings you back around. Not to harm you, but to free you. In Judges chapter 2, God's people fell into a pattern so devastating it's recorded like a broken record throughout the entire book. They would worship God, then turn to idols. God would deliver them, then they'd rebel. Over and over and over. 7 times this cycle repeats. 7 times. The same sin, the same consequence, the same deliverance, the same rebellion. Why didn't God just destroy them? Why didn't he give up and start over with a new people? Because the circle wasn't meant to trap them, it was meant to teach them, and the same is true for you. That husband who betrayed you in 1987, and then that business partner who did the same thing in 2003, and then that church member who stabbed you in the back in 2019. That's not 3 separate tragedies, beloved. That's one lesson you haven't learned yet. God keeps bringing you back to the same classroom because you keep walking out before the final exam. That financial collapse that crushed you in your 40s, and then again in your 60s, and now you're 80 years old wondering why you can't seem to break through. It's not a curse, it's a circle, and somewhere in that pattern is a lesson about trust, about provision, about letting go of control that your spirit refuses to learn. Ecclesiastes 1-9 says it plainly. What has been will be again. What has been done will be done again. There is nothing new under the sun. Solomon understood the circle. He saw it. He lived it. And he's telling you, if you don't break the pattern will break you. But here's what most people don't understand about these circles. Here's what the enemy doesn't want you to know. You're not repeating these seasons to be tortured. You're repeating them to complete them. Every time that circle brings you back around, you're carrying something you didn't have the last time. More wisdom, more faith, more of God's character etched into your bones. The first time you faced betrayal, it destroyed you. The second time, it wounded you. The third time, you're starting to see it coming. You're building discernment. You're developing armor. God is not making you suffer the same pain twice to punish you. He's giving you a second chance to respond differently. A third chance. A fourth chance. As many chances as it takes until you finally get it right. Think about Peter. 3 times he denied Jesus. 3 times. And after the resurrection, what did Jesus do? He asked Peter 3 times, "Do you love me?" John 21. Jesus brought Peter back to the scene of his greatest failure and gave him 3 opportunities to reverse his betrayal. 3 denials, 3 affirmations, the circle closed, the pattern broke, and Peter became the rock upon which the church was built. Your circle is closing too, beloved, but only if you're willing to face it differently this time. that family member who keeps wounding you. The test isn't whether you can cut them off forever. The test is whether you can love them without letting them destroy you. That financial pressure that keeps returning. The test isn't whether you can finally make enough money. The test is whether you can trust God when your bank account says zero. You've been fighting the same battles for 40, 50, 60 years, and every time that familiar pain shows up, you respond the same way. Anger, bitterness, fear, self-protection. And every time you respond that way, the circle resets. The timer starts over. The lesson remains unlearned. But not this time. This time, you're going to see it for what it is. This time, you're going to recognize that when God brings you back to the same pain, He's not abandoning you to it. He's positioning you to conquer it once and for all. If this is hitting you right where you live, if you're seeing your own life in these words, type it right now. Break the cycle. Let heaven see that you're finally ready to learn what you've been avoiding. Let the angels witness that this is the generation where the pattern ends. Because, beloved, you are not repeating seasons. You are completing them. And the question that will determine your entire future is this: are you ready to pass the test this time, or will you let the circle spin you around one more decade? Chosen one, I need to tell you something that's going to shatter the loneliness you've been carrying for decades. You think you've been walking through this final test alone, don't you? You think that when your spouse died, when your children stopped calling, when your friends forgot your birthday, when the church moved on without you, you think God left you to face this season by yourself. But what if I told you that right now, at this very moment, there are beings standing so close to you that they can hear your heartbeat? What if I told you that heaven has assigned watchers, angels, who guard you through this final examination, and they are closer to you than your own shadow? Listen to me carefully. You are not alone. You have never been alone. Even when every earthly person abandoned you, even when you sat in that hospital room with no visitors, even when you ate Thanksgiving dinner by yourself for the 3rd year in a row, there were witnesses, holy witnesses. Angels assigned specifically to you, recording every act of faithfulness, blocking traps you never even saw, whispering reminders when you were about to give up. Psalm 91:11 declares it with thunderous authority. For He shall give His angels charge over thee, to keep thee in all thy ways. Not some of your ways, not your good days, all thy ways. Every step you've taken in this final test has been shadowed by divine protection. But here's what breaks my heart. You've been so focused on who left that you forgot to notice who stayed. That morning 3 weeks ago, when you woke up with inexplicable peace after crying yourself to sleep that wasn't random, an angel whispered comfort while you slept. That day, you almost fell down the stairs, but somehow caught yourself. That wasn't luck. An angel steadied your frame. That moment you were about to say something you'd regret, but the words caught in your throat. That wasn't coincidence. An angel reminded you of who you really are. Hebrews 1:14 asks the question that should rock your world. Are they not all ministering spirits sent forth to minister for them who shall be heirs of salvation? Ministering spirits sent forth for you. Do you understand what this means? While you've been feeling forgotten, heaven has been deploying armies on your behalf. While you've been questioning if God still cares, angels have been working overtime to make sure you pass this test. While you've been wondering if your prayers even make it past the ceiling, celestial beings have been delivering them directly to the throne room. But let me tell you what these watchers are really doing that will leave you breathless. They're recording your obedience. Every time you chose worship over worry, an angel wrote it down. Every time you forgave when bitterness would have been easier, it was documented in heaven's archives. Every time you tithed when you could barely afford groceries, every time you prayed for someone who hurt you, every time you got out of bed when depression told you to stay down, all of it recorded, all of it witnessed, all of it counting towards something so magnificent you can't even imagine it yet. They're blocking hidden traps. That investment opportunity that seemed perfect but fell through at the last minute. An angel saw the fraud coming and closed that door. That relationship you desperately wanted but couldn't make work. A watcher saw the destruction ahead and redirected your path. That diagnosis you feared but somehow avoided, divine intervention blocked what hell had assigned to take you out. They're whispering reminders of your true identity. When you look in the mirror and see only age and decline, angels see a warrior who survived everything hell threw at them. When you feel weak, they remind heaven of your strength. When you feel invisible, they testify to your faithfulness. When you wonder if you matter, they're telling God's throne room that you're still standing, still believing, still fighting. But here's the mystery that will grip your soul. There is one moment angels rejoice more than any other. Not when you win, not when you succeed, not even when you're healed. Angels rejoice most when you choose obedience in the middle of the test. When you can't see the outcome but you trust God anyway. When the blessing is still invisible but your faith remains visible. When everything in you wants to quit but you take one more step. That moment, chosen one, you are nearing that moment right now. The watchers have been waiting for this. They've been guarding you, guiding you, preparing you for the instant when your obedience becomes so pure, so tested, so refined that heaven itself erupts in celebration. And when that moment comes, when you finally pass this final test, those same angels who protected you through the wilderness will escort you into the promise. But you have to understand something crucial. These angels don't move until you move. They don't open doors until you step forward. They don't celebrate until you choose. Your obedience activates their assignment. Your faith releases their power. Your declaration of "I'm still listening" tells them you're ready for what comes next. Right now, type in the comments, "I welcome angels." That's not just words, that's agreement with heaven. That's you acknowledging that you're not alone. You've never been alone, and you're ready to walk with the watchers into your breakthrough. Because, beloved, you have never walked alone, even when every earthly person left you. And the beings who have guarded you through every dark valley are about to reveal why this final test was worth every tear you've cried. But are you ready to see what they've been protecting you for? Chosen one, I need you to stop everything you're doing right now and listen to what I'm about to tell you. Because what you're about to hear will explain every single moment of your life up until this point. You've been waiting for a sign, haven't you? Waiting for the heavens to open, for the angel to appear, for the phone to ring with good news, for the doctor to say the words you've been praying to hear. You've been watching for the external shift, the visible change, the tangible proof that God finally heard you. But what if I told you that the sign already came, and you almost missed it? Listen carefully. The sign that you've passed the final test isn't what you think it is. It's not the breakthrough arriving. It's not the door suddenly opening. It's not the miracle manifesting. The sign is something far more profound, far more sacred, far more powerful than any external circumstance could ever be. The sign is this: peace arrives before the answer does. Let that settle into your spirit for a moment. Peace before the answer. You see, beloved, passing God's final test has nothing to do with getting what you asked for. It has everything to do with becoming who He created you to be. And the moment you pass it, the very moment something shifts inside you that the world can't see, but heaven can't ignore. Think about Job. This man lost everything: his children, his wealth, his health, his reputation. His own wife told him to curse God and die. His friends accused him of secret sin. For months, maybe years, Job sat in ashes, scraping his sores with broken pottery, crying out to God for answers. But do you know when Job passed the test? It wasn't when God restored his fortunes. It was when Job said in chapter 13, verse 15, "Though he slay me, yet will I trust in him." That's the moment. That's the shift. Job found peace in the presence of God before he ever saw the provision of God. And the moment that peace arrived, everything in the spiritual realm began to move. Or consider Daniel in that lion's den, 85 years old, thrown into a pit of starving beasts because he refused to stop praying. The Bible says in Daniel chapter 6, verse 23, that when they pulled him out the next morning, No wound was found on him, because he had trusted in his God. But here's what most people miss. Daniel's peace didn't come after the lions' mouths were shut. His peace was there with him in the den, in the dark, surrounded by predators. He passed the test the moment he chose trust over terror. This is what God has been waiting to see in you, chosen one. Not your ability to hold on until the breakthrough comes, your ability to let go before it arrives. Think about your own life right now. For decades, you've been white-knuckling your way through, gripping your prayers like a drowning person grips a life raft, begging God to move, to shift, to change something, anything. And he's been whispering the same thing over and over. Let go. Trust me. Find your peace in my presence, not in my presence. That mortgage that's been suffocating you for 30 years. The test isn't whether God pays it off. The test is whether you can worship him in a rented apartment. That prodigal child who broke your heart. The test isn't whether they come home. The test is whether you can trust God with them, even if they never do. That body that's betraying you, that diagnosis that terrifies you, that loneliness that crushes you at 3 a.m. The test isn't the healing. The test is the surrender. Listen to what Jesus said in Matthew 6:25. Therefore I say unto you, take no thought for your life, take no thought. Not take a little thought or worry just until it gets better, take no thought. Because passing the test means your peace is no longer attached to your circumstances. And here's the mystery that will blow your mind. The moment you pass this test internally, everything shifts externally. Not because you earned it, not because you finally did something right, but because you've been transformed into the kind of vessel that can handle what God has been trying to give you all along. You couldn't receive the blessing when you were desperate for it. Desperate people make terrible stewards. You couldn't walk through the door when you were pounding on it. Frantic faith opens nothing. You couldn't step into your destiny when you were sprinting toward it. God doesn't bless the anxious, he blesses the aligned. But now, something's different, isn't it? You're reading these words and you realize that somewhere along the way, in the middle of the waiting, in the depth of the silence, something broke loose inside you. The panic is gone. The desperation has lifted. The fear that used to wake you at midnight doesn't control you anymore. You still want the answer. You still need the breakthrough. You still long for the change. But for the first time in decades, you're okay, even if it doesn't come today. You've found something more valuable than the miracle you've been chasing. You've found the God who performs them, and he's enough. That's the sign, beloved. That's how you know you passed. When peace arrives before the answer does, heaven takes notice. When you stop needing God to prove himself and start trusting him regardless, angels begin to move. When your worship is no longer conditional on your circumstances, the final seal is broken, and what has been locked for generations suddenly swings wide open. If this revelation is hitting your spirit right now, if you recognize this shift inside you, if you know that something fundamental has changed even though nothing external has moved yet, I need you to do something. Type these 3 words in the comments. I have passed. Because chosen one, when you pass the final test, heaven doesn't just move, heaven moves because of you. You become the catalyst, you become the reason, you become the one through whom God demonstrates to a watching world what true faith looks like. The test is over, the transformation has begun, and what happens next will rewrite every chapter of your story that the enemy tried to destroy. Beloved chosen one, as we come to the end of this sacred moment together, I need you to hold 3 eternal truths in your heart. First, remember this. The final test isn't about what you achieve, it's about who you become. God has been measuring your readiness, not your perfection. Every moment of stagnation, every unanswered prayer, every season that felt too long, it was all preparing you for a transformation so profound that heaven itself has been holding its breath, waiting for you to pass through. Second, understand that peace before the answer is the sign you've been waiting for. When you can worship in the waiting, trust in the silence, and rest in his presence regardless of your circumstances, that's when everything shifts. not because you earned it, but because you're finally ready to carry it. Third, never forget, you are not walking this journey alone. The God who paused your life to examine your heart is the same God who will move heaven and earth on your behalf the moment you pass this test. He hasn't forgotten you. He hasn't abandoned you. He's been refining you for something greater than you could ever imagine. And beyond God's faithfulness, you have this community, thousands of believers, just like you, who understand the weight of the weight, who've walked through their own final tests, who are ready to stand with you in prayer and encouragement. You are not alone, dear one. We see you. We believe for you. We are praying with you. So let me ask you this one final question. Now that you know what God has been testing, now that you understand the sign of passing, will you finally surrender the outcome and trust the one who holds it? Before you go, join me in this prayer. Wherever you are right now, close your eyes and receive these words as if I'm placing my hand on your shoulder. Heavenly Father, I lift up every precious soul who has stayed with us through this entire message. Lord, you see them. You know their names, their struggles, their silent tears at 3 a.m. You've watched them fight for decades, believing when belief felt impossible. Tonight, I pray that you would breathe fresh wind into their weary spirits. Where they feel forgotten, remind them they're engraved on your palms. Where they feel stuck, show them you've been preparing, not punishing. Where they fear the test is too hard, whisper that you never give more than they can bear, and that passing isn't about perfection, it's about surrender. Open doors that no man can shut. Restore what the enemy has stolen. Let peace flood their hearts before the answers arrive, so they'll know they've finally passed. In Jesus' mighty name, Amen. Now, I want to hear from you. Comment below and tell us where you are in your final test. Ask for prayer. This community will surround you. Share what God spoke to your heart today. And please, share this message with someone who needs to know they're not alone in the waiting. Someone who needs to understand that their stagnation isn't punishment, it's preparation. Thank you for staying with me through this entire journey. Thank you for opening your heart to what heaven wanted to speak over your life tonight. If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications, because your breakthrough journey is just beginning and we're going to walk through it together. You've passed the test, beloved. Now watch what God does next.